Hi, I'm Jack Davis, and welcome to another episode of The Zone. Here with me this week, our old friend, Jake Smith, and new friend, Kee Seymore.
Thank you for having me.
So guys, I feel like right now we're starting each show on a somber note, but as an LA sports fan, there seems to be no other note besides just depression and angst. The Lakers last night, season opener, in a season that already has doubt and misfortune upon it. Julius Randle, the Lakers' young rookie, number 7 pick, breaks his leg. Dwight Howard's Houston Rockets beat the Lakers by 20. And this begs the question, are the Lakers cursed? Is this really going to become a Clippers town? What is the state of the LA Lakers?
Well, I don't know if the Lakers are cursed. I do know that this was their rebuilding year. It started with Julius Randle being drafted 7th overall. But then, the injuries, the multiple injuries. Steve Nash out for the year. Obviously, Randle from last night.
Nick Young's out.
Nick Young's out, two months now. Mm-hmm. Is it going to be a Clippers town? No. Until the Clippers win, it can't be a Clippers town. Do the Clippers have more talent? Yes. Will they succeed a lot more than the Lakers will this year? Absolutely.
I don't think the Lakers are cursed. I just think there's been a lot of poor managerial decisions made. Riding Kobe till he's done, I get the loyalty aspect of it, yada, 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 all that fun stuff, but you're not going to win. Mm-hmm. So are you cursed? No. Have there been bad decisions? Yes.
When I say are the Lakers cursed, because they're always talked about the Clippers cursed, right? It almost seemed like the Clippers just couldn't win. Things couldn't happen right for them. Blake Griffin got hurt as a rookie. Every free agent they brought in was terrible. Elton Brand leaves. And it almost seems like the Lakers do have a curse because you look at the injuries they've had. Kobe torn Achilles, that's pretty much a fluke injury. I mean, you guys can maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but torn Achilles is a fluke injury. Dwight leaves. Powell leaves. And then a broken leg for their star 19-year-old rookie in his first game of the year, a broken leg on a play that didn't look that out of the ordinary.
Let me say one thing. You're talking about curse and you're talking about you have Bynum, Howard, Shaq, and Powell, they all leave. What's the common denominator? It's Kobe. That's where the decisions are played into it rather than a curse. So, yeah, I mean, it's rough that Steve Nash and Swaggy P and Kobe got hurt last year and Julius Randle last night. But in the grand scheme of things, Randle getting hurt doesn't affect the Lakers. Yeah, it may affect them this year a little bit. Maybe he's worth 2 or 3 wins extra. But in the grand scheme of things, they're not winning this year, so it doesn't matter. He's still going to develop. It's only an 8-week injury. It's not like a knee. It's not an Achilles. It's a broken leg. People think it's bad because they see the Kevin Ware and the Paul George and they look like bad injuries. But in reality, you take that 10 times out of 10 over an ACL or an Achilles or anything like that.
And the fact with Randle is he's young. He's 19, and I don't think the Lakers are in the position now to where it's like they need to rush him back. To your point, it's kind of I don't want to say a throwaway season, but any wins that they can accumulate, especially in the West, is a bonus. So I think rebuilding, retooling, when they're looking at Randle for the future, there's no need to rush him back. And it's one of those things where they don't have the pieces in place to make a run right now. So it's kind of like, all right, well, we'll play the season out and see what happens.
I think those are fair points. But as an LA native, let me give you my counter thoughts. This is a front-running town, especially for sports. We love the winners. And perception does matter in LA. And the perception over the last 2 or 3 years has been, look, the Clippers are better, but the Lakers still have the history, they still have the allure, and they still had reasons to watch them. Even though that season with Dwight and Nash was a train wreck, there was reasons to watch. Last year, Kobe got hurt, he missed the whole year, it was a tough year, but I thought, Kobe's going to be back, and we're going to have a young draft pick. Laker fans have been needing a young pick to have some energy. The problem with Julius being hurt, even though I do think it will stunt his development, I disagree, I think the problem with him being hurt is it gives almost no excitement around the team. So the Clippers are this big, exciting team. We all knew the Lakers weren't going to make the playoffs this year, but at least there was that glimmer of hope for the future that kept them relevant in the city spotlight.
I agree with that. However, 2 months in a span of a career is nothing. And honestly, I think they should keep him out longer, let him develop off the court, get stronger, get bigger, be a better athlete, and really refine his game. Because if he's playing, really all he's doing is just trying to keep up. So if you look at a guy like Nerlens Noel, who I expect a huge year out of for the Sixers, they didn't rush him back. Yeah, he probably could have come back last year. I mean, you look at people that come back from ACLs really, really quickly. I was one of those people. And then you look at people that are held out a long time. This could probably help the Lakers in the long run. You're talking about young draft picks. I understand that LA is a front-running town and all that kind of stuff, but if you lose 5 wins because of Randle getting hurt, chances are that could be the difference between the 7th pick and the 5th pick, and you actually get to keep that. So that's the way I would look at it if I were a Laker fan, especially the way that I'm bought in as a Sixers fan to getting younger, accumulating draft picks, and really building through the draft. So that would be my take about the Lakers right now.
What do you think, Kee?
You know, it's hard to dissect when you rebuild. You know, it's hard to point at one piece and say, well, he's going to make or break our team. I do agree with Jake in terms of not rushing Randle back, and it literally being, you know, you're looking towards the future, just like the Cavs were looking towards the future when they were tanking a number of games, you know, throughout their last 2 or 3 seasons. You look at them now, and those draft picks are now turning into quality starts for a lot of these players and a lot of these wins.
Or quality trade assets.
Exactly.
But my whole thing, I understand your guys' points, but the way I disagree is it's never good for a player to miss time. It's better to develop on the court and get that experience, to get that exposure and work on your jumper in game situations.
I would differ from that train of thought.
Because we all know the best way to develop rookies is to have them sit and not play sports. You got to play.
I think it can work for some people and not for others. I think there's a lot that you can do and learn by not playing, especially when you take a jump from 1 year in college to the pros.
Yeah.
They didn't get that chance to develop.
We'll see. Either way, sad stuff as a Lakers fan. You know, for me as a fan, Randle was probably the #1 reason I wanted to watch the team this season, and it takes away a huge incentive for me to go to games, watch on TV. It's tough, and in line with that tough news for Los Angeles sports fans, the Giants are in the World Series. They're 1 win away from their 3rd World Series title in 5 years, but the Kansas City Royals are also 1 win away. Tonight, Game 7, World Series. Who do you guys got?
I'm going Giants. I got to take the Giants. I think with that butt whooping they took last night, they'll come back strong.
I gotta take the Royals. We've talked about this on the show. Is that I've said Royals in 7. I think that there's this allure about rooting for the ultimate underdog, and that is Kansas City. And we've talked about this, but I really think that the Royals in 7 with those fans behind them, I think that's going to make the big difference.
It's great for you to make that prediction, and if it comes true, be able to have video evidence that you made the prediction, not that you were just lying.
I usually just have tweets. So.
Yeah, but here's my question. Are you guys going to watch the game tonight? And I know we're baseball fans, maybe, but do you think America will watch the game? Or will NBA, first day of the NBA season, the first full slate of NBA games, take precedent in America's heart over Game 7 of the World Series?
I think people are going to tune in tonight, especially for those that are really excited about the Kansas City Royals.
Mm-hmm.
For them to do what they did this past season after being, was it 29 years, 30 years since they've been back to the World Series?
Mm-hmm.
I think that they're America's team. And I think that more people will tune in tonight simply because of what they did last night.
Mm-hmm. But here's the thing. I don't know what level of baseball fan you guys are. I think almost everyone in America can name 7 players on the Cavs. Can you name 7 Royals players? You guys, you're a baseball fan. Can you name 7 Royals players?
No, I can't.
I could try.
But
can you guys between you name 7 Royals players?
Ventura.
That's only half the name.
Shields.
That's the
Butler,
biggest street in LA.
Shields, Butler, Gordon. What's his name? Aoki, the dude in the outfield.
All right, so we got 5.
But you got that from Steve Aoki, so you just it's like association.
No. The answer's no.
Here's the thing.
Isn't that a problem for baseball? That it's Game 7 of the World Series. America's team. You're calling them America's team. You're predicting them to win and been behind them, and you can't. Isn't that a problem for baseball?
I think it's a huge problem for baseball, and I think the only thing that's going for baseball right now is the fact that they're not competing with the NFL. So they're lucky that it's not a Thursday. They're lucky it's not a Sunday, and they're lucky it's not a Saturday competing with college football or even a Monday.
But they're competing with the NBA, and I think the NBA slates are going to crush them tonight.
But you're also talking about a small market team. Anytime you're talking about small market teams, generally speaking, if you're not from that hometown, you're not going to know the names.
San Francisco is a bigger market than Miami, and Kansas City is a bigger market than San Antonio. Yet the Miami Heat, San Antonio Spurs finals dominated headlines.
I think
Go ahead.
I think there's a huge difference between the star power that's in basketball, the draw that's in basketball versus baseball. When you have, because you're watching for individuals in basketball. Baseball is a team sport.
That's the problem.
You can't take over. You can't take over like you can in basketball. It's not. You don't have one person to really look at. Even if you have a Clayton Kershaw of the Dodgers, he's pitching 1 out of 5 games. So you have that star power once a week. So I think that's a big problem for baseball. I think the games are too long. I think people don't really have the attention span for it. There's not action every second. There's so much time in between pitches even, let alone big plays, that I think baseball's lacking in that regard. But I think there's something special about a Game 7 when everything's on the line. I know that if it's on, I'm going to watch it. Now, am I going to schedule my day around it? Absolutely not.
And if it was Game 7 in the NBA Finals, you would.
Absolutely.
But also, again, to your point, you got 162 games to pay attention. The average fan starts paying attention in October. And that's if their team has made it. I'm a Yankees fan, so every year I'm not gonna literally pay attention to 162 games until I know, first of all, we're gonna be in the playoffs in October, and then I'll tune in. So basketball is quick, it's fast paced, it's exciting. And you get up for those names like the marquee matchups, the opening of Cleveland tomorrow night. I'm tuning in.
I cannot wait more for a game, by the way.
I mean, let's talk about it.
And they're playing the Knicks, so it's like, they're going to probably crush them, and it's like LeBron's homecoming. But this is the problem with baseball. As much as it's cool for LeBron's homecoming, the biggest baseball game in the world, the first Game 7 in a couple of years, doesn't have that attention. So I think this speaks to, the problems in the sport, and I don't know if there's an easy fix.
I think it would be very cool to see the World Series champions play the champions of, like, let's say, Japan's biggest baseball league or something like that, where it's called the World Series. I understand there's a huge foreign influx in baseball, but if you actually made it like that, and not just the World Baseball Classic, but if you made it like that, I think that would at least stir some excitement, even if it wasn't every year, but stir some excitement within the baseball community.
I think it might stir international excitement, but would it stir excitement here? I don't know if I agree.
I think the only thing to do would be try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on that note of tonight's World Series game, we're going to start a new segment this week called Good Call, Bad Call, which is a decision being made by a manager or team a good call or a bad call? And our first good call, bad call is Game 7 of the World Series. Madison Bumgarner, best pitcher for the Giants, dominates Game 1, dominates Game 4, dominates Game 5, I'm sorry. Says he's ready to come pitch Game 7. He says he could throw 200 pitches. Giants manager Bruce Bochy not starting Madison under the premise of, he just pitched 2 days ago. Is this a good call or a bad call?
I'd say it's a good call because, we were watching the game last night for a second and it got to 4-0, 3-0 even. You're like, it's done. Let's play for Game 7. So in that case, if you don't think he has his best stuff, which, let's be honest, he probably won't, I understand adrenaline can carry you and things like that. I think he'll be more effective coming in the 4th or 5th and then finishing a game because they don't have all the faith in the world in their bullpen. But if you have a guy with the best stuff in the world right now, that adrenaline can drive him if it's a one-run game. I trust that more than trying to have him throw 9.
I think he should start tonight. I think that you literally go to your ace and you say, I need 5, maybe 6 innings from you. Give me what you can. And I also think the emotional psyche of the players changes when you have your ace out there who not only steps up and is accepting and willing to say, you know what, I'm going to put this on my shoulders today, guys. Follow my lead. I think that can do wonders not only for your ball club, but the bullpen as well. And I think that pressure, you alleviate that pressure.
That was the best answer that's the perfect answer because this is what sports is. And I hate in today's culture, we make excuses. Sometimes I feel like, if you're a great pitcher, if you're really the best pitcher in the world, it's the last game of the season. You don't need to save your stuff. You don't need to save any juice. Leave it all on the line. That's what star pitchers do. If you want to be the best, say, give me the ball. I'm going to go through 9. I'm going to fight to the ineffectiveness. That's what stars do. That's what MJ did.
And I feel like it's very reminiscent of what CC Sabathia did years ago. Was it for Milwaukee or Cleveland?
He just took the ball every
listen, let's go. Let's do this. And, that's what ultimately led him to signing a record-breaking deal at the time with the Yankees. But he stepped up and he delivered. And I think that when you're the ace of the staff, and, let's be honest, how many World Series chances are you going to get?
Well, if you're the Giants, you get him.
Well, yeah, but like, it's Game 7.
Yeah, and speaking to that point, it goes back to, I think, our last point about how baseball needs to be more marketable. What better storyline than, hey, let's introduce this young star, Madison Bumgarner, to the national stage. He just pitched 2 days ago, and he's coming back, taking the hill. That's a heroic story. That's like a lion-type story that I think America could actually connect to. Like, can this guy make it through? Because you said we connect to individuals. So I think it'd be great for the Giants I think it's the right move tactically. I think always trust your best guy at 60%, then your second best guy at 100% in this case. And it could be a good move for a storyline as well. Anyway, let's go to our next good call, bad call. Quarterback controversy in Washington. Kirk Cousins, he's out.
Is there controversy?
Kirk's gone. But Colt McCoy leads the Redskins to a shocking upset over the Dallas Cowboys. But Robert Griffin III might be back this week. Robert could be the future of the franchise. Colts winning right now. Who should be the call in Washington?
I think it's simple for a variety of reasons. First off, you go with RG3 if he's healthy, because you need to get as many games in as possible to see if he's actually the future or not. You can't trust that, when he's healthy, he will be. You need to see him get through a second half of the season, maintain his health, and be that guy that you literally gave up the farm for. So I think you have to play him if he's healthy, if nothing else, just to see what you have and actually see if he can do it. You have value in Colt McCoy right now. Colt McCoy has value, and as an agent, I'd be like, hey, you guys should play RG3, and then let Colt sign a deal and be like, oh, well, when he was with the Browns, he didn't have anybody around him. But from the team standpoint, there is way too much investment in RG3 not to play him, and you need to see if he's that guy that you gave all that money to.
Yeah, and I think that he only had, 1 or 2 games under his belt in Gruden's new system. They have the half of the season left. They're 3-5 or 2-5 right now.
3-5.
I mean, Philly and Dallas have kind of shorn up that division, right? So it's a one-legged race in my opinion. You need to see exactly what's going on for those 8 remaining games, and is he going to be the face of your franchise for years to come? Can he learn to stay in the pocket and deliver? Can he learn to literally get down, slide, get out of bounds, not take these hits that are costing you wins? I mean, let's be real about this. They are costing you wins, and it's frustrating. It's frustrating being a Redskins fan or cheering for the Redskins to see this happen, because he's a superb talent, and it's almost as if, why do you want to continually put yourself at risk when you don't have to?
And this shows, I agree with both your calls. I think this shows just how important quarterbacks are in the NFL. Because Colt McCoy, I think he's proven he's a good quarterback, but everyone knows he's not a transcendent franchise quarterback. And you can sometimes win with an average quarterback. You can sometimes win the Super Bowl, but almost always, to be an elite team, you need a transcendent quarterback. And RG3 is the only one who has a chance to be transcendent. Maybe he won't be. Maybe injuries will hold him down.
You either need a transcendent quarterback, or you need the defense to back it up, right? Or you need a game manager, if you will. Someone who's not going to turn the ball over, someone who's going to make the right plays when they present themselves. And, that begs the question with Colt McCoy, So, we'll see what happes.
You had Dilfer, Flacco, who I don't think Flacco is an elite quarterback. I know he's paid like one, but he's paid like one because he won a Super Bowl, right?
He played elite during that run, though.
Correct, but I don't think he's a transcendent quarterback, right? So, and you had Dilfer, who we all know was not, but he had a ring. So, and I think that Colt McCoy could be better than Andy Dalton is right now, but he's not a top 5, top 10 quarterback. But he's shown that he can play. But like you said, he is not RG3. He does not have that talent. He doesn't have the arm, the speed, anything that RG3 has. So it'd be interesting to see if the Redskins can actually ride out RG3.
I think we agree, all of us. I also think that Washington will see it our way, because they made a huge investment in RG3. They need to at least explore what that investment is going to do, because they need to align their offseason. But I think it's trouble in Washington no matter what. I think Colt will probably leave as a free agent, or if he stays, he's not a guy who's going to guide a team to 10, 12 wins by himself. I think RG3, you've taken this many hits young. If you look at RG3, it's all lower body injuries. For a quarterback who's trying to get his legs under him, right ankle, left knee. I mean, I think there's just trouble in Washington. I think that their future is very uncertain. So anyway, we move on to our next segment of Who's Better. Right now we have some top teams in sports, and the football landscape teams are taking their shape. And in college football, number 1, Mississippi State Bulldogs. Number 2, Florida State Seminoles. Guys, who's better?
I have to go Mississippi State. I am not sold by any means on Florida State. You know, they really they've been tested all year, but I don't feel like they've been tested by the right team.
Florida State is in the weakest of the major conferences. By far the weakest conference of the major conferences. I'm sorry, Duke's there.
I'm an ACC guy.
But the ACC is terrible at football this year.
But the Big Ten and Big 12, you know, they're not great either.
I'll take Michigan State or Ohio State, who I don't believe in, over Florida State. And I would take 3 Big 12 teams over Florida State.
So you're taking Mississippi State over Florida State?
I'll take Mississippi State over Florida State every day of the week. Their defense is stout. They have a quarterback who, if they win out, will win the Heisman, whether he puts up the Heisman numbers or not.
Stud QB.
Yeah, you know, and they don't do anything. They're not flashy. They don't do anything like the Manziel and Texas A&M offense did or anything like that. But, you know, they're a very, very solid football team. They don't have any glaring weaknesses. Their defense is great. Their offense is good enough.
And their defense is really good at stopping the run. If you've seen them play over the last 3 to 4 weeks, filling in those gaps, they've been really attacking the run. So, you know, you just have to lean towards Mississippi State.
Here's the thing. I respect your guys' points. Now, because Florida State is in the ACC, you know they're going to have a good shot at the college football playoff. You know they'd have to really tank not to make that playoff. And once they're there, as much as Jameis Winston, you love to hate him because he seems like a terrible guy. But he's a baller. And you're saying ACC, they beat Auburn last year. They won the national championship. And they're my bet, not only over Mississippi State, who I think will lose to Ole Miss, but I think Florida State is bringing home ring number 2 this year.
Florida State last year versus Florida State this year are 2 completely different teams. That defense, with I think they lost 9 starters in the draft alone. I mean, yeah, they're gonna have they reloaded, but it's hard to replace the guys that they lost. Not to mention the Kelvin Benjamins of the world and guys that are really were able to just go up and get it. They don't have that. They don't have the great running back this year or anything like that. They're a completely different team, and that right there is why I don't think they're that good. I understand like the preseason ranking and they've stayed just because they've won, but they don't look to me as the best team in the country at all.
Well, it'd be great for Duke to beat them. That'd be a great thing. I went to actually the game, the ACC championship game when Duke played Florida State, and we knew we were going to lose, but it was awesome to see a team that good in person. I think that Florida State, I think your points are fair, but I think they get maybe underrated because they have such a team of assholes. You know what I mean? That people might underrate them, and people hate Jimbo Fisher right now.
Coach is an asshole.
Yeah, you know, their players are committing crimes and like, you know. But I think if you actually just separate that from the football team, I think it's a good team.
Do you believe in Notre Dame?
No.
So if that's where you are, and Notre Dame was this close to beating Florida State, I can't believe in Florida State because I also don't believe in Notre Dame.
Fair points, but I got to rep my ACC, man. I got to rep the ACC. So now we're going to go shift to the NFL for the Who's Better. This weekend, Sunday afternoon, the number 1 team in the AFC, the Denver Broncos, my Denver Broncos, face off against the number 2 team in the AFC, the New England Patriots. Manning versus Brady again. We got to cherish these matchups. I mean, Manning versus Brady has been an amazing rivalry for 15 years now. We don't know how many more installments we're going to get. Who do you like this week, but who's also better overall?
I think the Broncos are the better overall team. The Patriots have looked amazing the past couple weeks. Gronk is back. What Brady did with Gronk and Brandon LaFell last week and having no incompletions when they targeted him was absolutely absurd. But the Broncos are the better team. They have the better defense. I think they're built better when it comes to winning a Super Bowl. But that said, I think this week is a toss-up. But if we're talking about the rest of the season, I'm taking the Broncos over the Patriots.
If we're solely talking about this week, because the Patriots find a way to get better, they continually get better as the season goes on, I have to take the Denver Broncos. Their offense is clicking, and what's crazy is their offense is clicking without Wes Welker. You know, Emmanuel Sanders has come in there and done an excellent job when Welker missed a few games. But that defense is for real. That defense is a top 10 defense, and those boys are getting after it.
See, I love that point because if you actually watch these games, which, you know, you clearly made a great point, Welker's not even a big part of this offense anymore. Welker's not a big part of the offense, And everyone was so upset when the Broncos, I almost say we, because I'm a fan, when the Broncos lost Eric Decker. And Decker was a great player, but Peyton Manning's going to make you better. And Decker was a great possession receiver, but as you perfectly said, Emmanuel Sanders, he stretches the field. Mm-hmm. Emmanuel Sanders gives them a vertical option. Demarius is a beast with yards after the catch. Emmanuel, again, he gives them a more actually explosive option than Decker did. Welker doesn't even play a huge role in this offense anymore. Ronnie Hillman's made great strides as a running back. Now, in my Larry David voice. That being said, even though I'm a big Broncos fan, I think the Patriots win this week.
I think it's going to come down to turnovers. I think whoever can protect the ball the most this week, it's going to come down to that.
I think the biggest difference between this year and last year is I think the Broncos' defense is exponentially better. They get after the passer, and everybody knows once you hit Tom Brady and get him on the move, he's nowhere near the same quarterback as he is if he has time. If he has time, he's going to pick you apart. But you make him uncomfortable, and he just is not the same player. And I think with Von Miller and guys like that, I think the Broncos will be able to get after him.
The Broncos fall apart in New England every year, though. I think we're a better team moving forward. I think in the playoffs, we're probably going to have home field advantage. But in New England, that's a tough team to beat, and Peyton's always struggled in New England.
Well, Von Miller's having the best, 2 or 3 game stretch that I've seen in a very long time. That's a player that's motivated. That's a player that's slimmed down coming into the season, and that's a player I think that's got a lot to prove. Mm-hmm. You know, I think that there were a few knocks on him coming into this season, but he's playing very, very well. So we'll see what happens.
I think it's going to be a loss for the Broncos this weekend, but I agree they're the better team moving forward. So now we're going to go to my favorite segment, our last segment, Call Out. Call Out of the week. Sports, you got a lot of dumb people doing dumb things. Sometimes people take it too seriously, so this is our chance to have fun. Call someone out. Jake, go ahead and start us off.
I would like to call out Jeff Long, the chairman of the College Football Playoff Committee. I could definitely call out Jameis Winston for blindly backing his players who are clearly criminals, but they have the pressure of Tallahassee PD. But I'm going to call out Jeff Long because just for one ranking, and you can call me a homer, you can call me whatever you want, but Arizona beat Oregon at Oregon by a touchdown. And they are 7 places different in the rankings right now, between 5 and 12. And he comes out and says the biggest difference was the fact that Oregon beat UCLA. UCLA is ranked 22nd right now, but they're not that good. They are not that good of a team. People thought they were good, and this is my issue with preseason rankings. People love to say, oh, well, they were ranked this coming into the season. Well, what have you done for me since the season started? Like Florida State, yeah, they were the number 1 team coming into the year, but they have not looked like the number 1 team. I understand they haven't lost and everything like that, but Oregon and Arizona, you can say Oregon's better. That's fine. On paper, they probably are. But when you play at Oregon and you're Arizona, you are not 7 ranks different than them, and you go in and beat them, and you have a fluke loss to USC at home because of a kicker. I don't see that as a 7-spot difference, and I'm very curious to see what happens when Arizona beats UCLA on Saturday if we become if Arizona becomes the 5th-ranked team in the country and Oregon drops.
Well, you'll have a good chance this weekend to kind of shove those words in Jeff Long's face. Arizona at UCLA, I know you'll be at the game. I mean, I think that's a really chance for the Wildcats to make a statement. Not just win, but maybe win by 15, 20 points, because I think they're that much better. Key, your call out of the week.
I'm just going to have a quick call out to my Los Angeles Lakers. And I say my because I am such a huge fan of the NBA. I'm such a huge fan of basketball in general. Show some heart, guys. Show some heart. Show some dedication. Show some drive. Something that says you guys deserve to be on this court with the rest of the Western Conference.
It's tough. I mean, losing by 20 points. If there was one team they didn't want to lose to by 20 at home on opening night, it's Dwight Howard coming back with a diluted Rockets team with no Chandler Parsons and killing him.
Here's my thing about that whole game. Everybody's talking on Twitter like, oh, Kobe's the realest. He's the greatest of all time because he called Dwight Howard soft. I'm sorry, you lost by 18. You scored 2 more points than you had shots, I believe. I think you took 6 of 17 shooting.
17 shots, yeah.
So, I'm sorry, you're calling someone soft and telling someone to try you who's beating you by about 20 points.
Okay, but Kobe's got 5 rings, so he can call out whoever the hell he wants.
Okay, what are you going to do for me this year? We're watching the end, and I understand that.
Let's look at. First of all, Kobe's a competitor. Kobe's always going to compete. So Kobe's always going to take the top dog on whatever team. It was historically known that him and Dwight never got along. Mm-hmm. Who has Kobe gotten along with? But what's crazy about when you look at yesterday's tape, where were the rest of the players?
Yeah, no one is back.
Where were his teammates?
Here's the thing. That was the highlight of the Lakers season. So don't denigrate it, because that was
That's
the
my
peak.
point.
That
But
was our peak
that
moment.
right
That's
there
gonna be
is-
the best moment of the year.
That right there is the issue that the Lakers are going to have all year, and that's what you're going to have to hold on to. You're going to have to, everything about Kobe and his drive and all that
But
to
if
hold
I
on to.
can't root for the Lakers to win because I know they're not going to win, at least I can root for Dwight to fail. Because I hate Dwight, and he can just get dragged down, and Kobe can talk shit to him.
But he won. All he has to do is say scoreboard. All I would have done if
And
I'm Dwight
Kobe
Howard,
can
I'd just
say
be like,
scoreboard,
I'll say this,
scoreboard,
though.
scoreboard,
It's
scoreboard,
gonna
5
be, it's going to be
rings.
hard to root against Dwight because I feel like that Houston team's going to get better as the season wears on. You know, especially with their inside game with Terrence, or outside game with James Harden, Patrick Beverly. You know, they're a solid team.
if James Harden can play defense.
I'll always be able to root against Dwight. Anyway, my call out of the week is our friend Jose Canseco. Now, I don't know if you heard, but this morning it was announced by Jose Canseco that he was cleaning his handgun and shot his finger off. Now, my call out is kind of going to be a prediction. I predict either one of two things are the real story here. Either A, when Jose says he shot his finger off, he really just kind of grazed it and there's just like a little boo-boo. Or B, Jose purposely shot his finger off to get attention. I am willing to say that Jose Canseco, the biggest publicity whore, attention hog, would shoot his own finger just to be the 8th story on ESPN. I truly believe that. I think one of those two things are going to come out. Jose, no one cares. No one cares you shot your finger off. No one cares that you have a handgun. No one cares that you got super tatted up and do celebrity boxing in like little gyms in Nevada now. No one wants to hear from you. Go away. You weren't even that good of a baseball player. Goodbye. You're my cloud of the week. And this probably, I mean, I hope that this is the biggest press you get. Me calling you out. You don't deserve anything more, Jose. But, guys, thank you for joining the show. Jake, anything you want to tell people where they can find you, stuff to follow, stuff to track?
Definitely follow me on Twitter at @ikicked_. Instagram, same thing. You know, I love interacting with people, going back and forth, same way we do here. So let's get it.
Key, anything you want to plug?
Just come to my website, KeeSeymore.com. I have a few movies coming out within the next 6 to 8 months.
Do you want to spell that for anyone just in case they want to get
Kee, KeeSeymore.com.
All right, well, guys, thank you so much for coming on the show, and thank you, everyone, for watching The Zone. You can make sure to subscribe to the Lip TV, hit that subscribe button, hop over to LTV2 and subscribe there, but really, come to our website, thelip.tv. You can see short-form clips of The Zone, full episodes, and more from all the Lip's amazing programs, and follow The Lip on Twitter, @TheLipTV, and like The Lip on Facebook, facebook.com/TheLipTV.